Hello, my name is Suzanne S. Stevens. I'm co-producer and host of Wisdom Exchange TV and the founder and president of the Ignite Excellence Group of Initiatives. One of our key initiatives is the Ignite Excellence Foundation, which our mission is leadership, advocacy, and education. Our mission is to inspire, invest, and develop women in emerging countries. The Wisdom Exchange is a resource to aid African women to learn, lead, and succeed in life, business, and community. We're in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, with our very special guest and leading lady, Yetneberish Nigussie, Acting Executive Director of the Ethiopian Center for Disability and Development, as well as the founder of Yetneberish Modern Academy. To further appreciate the accomplishments, we need to acknowledge the fact that our guest today is not only blind, but only 29 years old. And looking through your bio, you seem to be always getting involved. You're involved in student council and clubs, the university, you pursued 2 degrees. You started Addis Ababa University Anti-AIDS Movement, founded AA Female Students Association in 2006, and served as the first president. Not to mention all the other stuff I just mentioned. What motivated you to get so involved so young?
Well, getting involved is a way of proving who you are. And many people think that you are someone in a certain way, maybe looking at your color, looking at your age, looking at your physical ability, whatsoever. But there is somebody whom you want to prove that you are in life. So I want to prove that I am a person who is able to do everything. So I started involvement within my early age in the schools, as you mentioned, within the clubs and then within the councils, and actually I assumed higher leadership positions like being president, vice president, and founder in so many cases. So for me, getting involved in all these things is a way to prove myself, who I am and who I want to be. So I learn from it as well as I teach others who I am.
Now when you say you want to prove yourself, who are you proving yourself to?
I am proving myself to the community, to my family, because as a baby, when you're born within your family, you're someone who needs to be taken care of every time. You're someone who needs to be provided with things every time. So I had to see the community and my family that I'm also a person who can contribute, not only consume contributions from other people. So it's for the community, for my family, and for the world in general.
Now, when you say that, is it as a person? Let's say you had sight. As a person, would you feel the same way, that you need to prove yourself to all those people? Or is it because that you don't have your sight, you feel more of a need to do that?
Halfway yes, halfway no. It's not only because I'm blind, but also I'm a female. I'm living in a third world country. I'm within a developing country. A number of factors that you can think about for people to draw who I am. Had I been a person with sight, then I would never be this way. You could go back to where I was born and where I was grown up. It's a place where you are susceptible to early marriage. So, had I not been blind, then I would be married to someone in my early age, within 9 or 10, 11 years old, and then I would have some around 4 or 5 kids, and then I would have never been who I am. But what I am proving for others is that I can do things by my own. That's it. So, not as a blind, not as a young person, but as a person, I can do things by myself.
I was going to ask you this later on, actually, but you brought it up. And I did read that you mentioned that you would have been married earlier if you weren't blind. What do you think you would have given up if you were married younger?
Well, it's very difficult to imagine because I wouldn't have this level of consciousness. So I don't think I would have the capacity to say no or to say, hey, these are the things I need to do and blah, blah. I'm made up of nature and nurture. I'm made up of opportunities as well as instances. So I think I would have been made this way. I think somehow I would be someone aggressive because I am a person who always sees that there are things which I didn't go through. There are things which I didn't achieve. So maybe I could be demanding, but still I wouldn't be the same person. I couldn't be demanding the same thing I'm demanding now.
Do you have some advice for young women particularly that see that they have to be married young to maybe validate who they are?
I don't think mostly it's their choice to get married. It's mostly the society's and the community's culture. But for anybody who can decide whether to get married or not to get married, and if they've got the chance, I would say no, because you have more time to choose. And the more you're matured, the more you can get your right choice.
With that, and I appreciate that it's also cultural, that sometimes you have to get married because that's what your society and family wants. What sort of advice could you give to mothers who, want their children to get married young?
Mothers are very anxious and in a hurry to see their kids have another kid, or to see their kid being a responsible person in a home. But I would really appreciate that eating food today doesn't ensure the sustainable food security in your home. So I know that for them, they are really eager to see what's going to happen today. But what we work on today will definitely determine what will happen in the future. So if they want to have a bright future, let them give the chance for their young kids to be able to choose whenever they are able to choose. So I know that they are anxious about today, but life is not only today. There's tomorrow. So we have to think about tomorrow. So whatever we do today should be in reflection to what should be happening, what should be achieved tomorrow in their life. So I think anybody should let the other person to be able to decide for himself or herself.
Getting involved at a young age, and what keeps you motivated and truly a trailblazer when it comes to disability. So what would be the one thing that you continue to do new things and expand a world for people that are disabled?
Two things. The first thing is recognition. I'm being recognized for every single work I'm doing. So I'm glad with that. Yeah. So the more I'm recognized, I feel that I have to be transferred to another level to be recognized for another better thing. The second thing is challenge. I have challenged within all my ways when I go with my life. Those challenges do keep me alert. So I have no time for sleeping. I have no time for frustration. Those challenges always ask me how I can solve them. So I think the first thing is recognition, and the second thing is challenge. It's good to have challenge. That's how you're always alerted, that's how you're always motivated, and that's how you're always challenging yourself, because the others are challenging you. It may be physical environment, it may be human beings, it may be financial situation, whatsoever challenges you, then you start to inquire yourself. Then is this challenge going to stop me, or am I stop this challenge? Then looking answer for that challenge makes me always alert and motivated.
Well, and I couldn't agree with you more, as my whole philosophy is push your edge to personal and professional potential, and that is coming up with challenges, fears, and things along those lines. Speaking of challenges, what are some of the biggest challenges in starting your own school?
Because it's not easy, live alone in Ethiopia and many other African countries. Blind women, specifically, as well as women with disabilities in general, are assumed to be less caring for their children, and many people think that it's very difficult for a blind woman to take care of her children, leave alone others' children. So it was very difficult for many families to bring their kids to my school, especially paying, thinking that I would take care of their kids. Really? So yeah, it was very difficult. Then I had only 23 students, as I mentioned, and the fact that I had those 23 students was because of the fame I had in the media. So I was someone, people appreciate me, people know me in the media. So they said, okay, then once we give our kids for her, then she will shape them in a way that she's grown up. So they brought them. So I think gradually, it was very good opportunity for me to have only 23 because it helped me to focus on the quality other than the quantity. So everybody thought, okay, then she has the best quality. I could prove with those 23 kids. Had they been many, had they been more than that, then maybe I would fail with the quality. When the quantity is more, then sometimes you would doubt about the quality. So the 23 kids, the number 23 was a good opportunity for me because it was less quantity and then it helped me to work on the quality. So the first thing is attitude. The second thing is physical premise. Still I'm working in a rented premise. So you always deal with the landowners, with the landlord. The more business you're getting, the more they want to give you a hassle, They want to say, okay, we want to sell this house. Okay, we will say, okay, we want to rise up the price and so on and so forth. So I think those were the two major challenges.
In your bio, it says that you believe you have one disability and the remaining 99 abilities to invest on. People tend to forget the 99 abilities that a person with a disability has and capitalize on the one disability, which ultimately leads to charity. I want to take that, and I think that's very well said, by the way. Tell us your perspective on charity and what impact that actually has on society and individuals.
Well, charity is always based on the goodwill of the giver. So the receiver has no say. All he or she has to do is just receive whatever is being given away. And with that, there is an issue of sustainability, there is an issue of pride. Nobody's proud for being, given away by someone. So I feel proud whenever I am given something, whenever I get something out of my work, because I think that I deserve that. But I could never think that I deserve a charity. And even though I think I won't, because it's always on the goodwill of the giver. So, many people think that charity is giving away money for people. But for me, I'm not against being generous. I'm generous, but I don't give money. Because giving money is impoverishing someone, getting him or her more poorer. So, in my thinking, I'm generous, but I only give opportunities. That's how I think people can be generous for others. But for charity, you're giving something which you don't want sometimes, or which you want and which you think others needed, and you are in a better position for others to give. So I think nobody's in a better position. All of us are in a good position that we can complement each other. So it brings about the inferior, superior kind of, class level kind of division, which I don't like.
And interesting enough, I think that was one of the catalysts for Wisdom Exchange TV. It's our donation, but it's just with the intent to empower other women empowering other women. It's an opportunity rather than money. So I can definitely appreciate where you're coming from. Now, what advice can you give to anyone who relies on systems or others to extract them from dependency?
It's like the story of the fish. If someone is catching the fish for you, then you will be hungry whenever that fishman is going to be absent. But if you learn from that person how to catch the fish, then you will be able to feed yourself forever.
And it's hard though. Like if you are hungry, or if you are have a physical disability that is an obvious physical disability, is there any other advice that you can give to those people to take control of their own lives and not rely on charities?
With an every challenge and high degree of challenge, there is a way out. For example, if I am a person with a very severe physical disability, so instead of waiting for others to give me money every day, I would look for something which I can do even sitting, even staying at home. So I don't think there is no answer for any question. You have to be creative, you have to be innovative. Otherwise, you're right, the regular thinking of people, if you're severely disabled or if you're severely poor, is that you have to receive money and things like that. No. What makes us disabled is the environment. So clear away the environment and enable me to do things. At least there is one thing that I could accomplish in life. So I have to make money out of it.
Is the school itself focused on children in general, or are those children physically disabled in one way or another?
No, it's a mainstream school. It has both children with disability as well as non-disabilities. The issue was there was a challenge between the private schools, among the private schools, to take in disabled kids. So mine was the first private school which taken both disabled and non-disabled kids at the same time. Because many private schools owners are afraid that if they take in disabled kids, then the other parents won't be happy to teach their non-disabled kids with their disabled kids. But that's not the case in mine, because they know that the owner is also disabled, so I have no discrimination policy for anyone, not only disability, but gender, HIV/AIDS, or any sort of social or economic background.
Now, that being said, do people with children that don't have any of those limitations, let's say, do they go to your school as well?
Some of them, yes, but many of them are very supportive, and even they assign their kids to help the other kids with some limitations. So they're very happy because their kids could contribute something to those kids with limitations. Which is
probably the best education a child can get, I think.
Of course.
So how do you motivate your staff? As I would imagine it would be an emotional job in many cases. So what sort of tactics do you use or that to keep your staff motivated? And also, keep them engaged with the diversity of students that you actually draw to your school?
My staff is very unique, and they get trainings every month, kind of self-building trainings, capacity building trainings. We give them, both me, my friends, and my husband, and so on and so forth. We give them trainings on different issues, and also we have our own release out sessions. Like for example, once in 3 months we go to films or theaters, something. But it's not just simply you don't get it because of being a staff, but because of performing better. Then you get a free film ticket, free theater. And some of them get a free massage because I've got connections from different places, so I give them a number of different opportunities. But all that is based on your performance. So the better you perform, I mean, salary is salary. You'll be paid whether you do or you don't do better. But there are other awards that I use to motivate people. So I have got friends from the massage industry, I've got friends from the film industry, I've got friends from the theater industry, so they give me different incentives, so I use those incentives for my staff.
You know, that's wonderful. I actually have never heard of somebody using incentives for staff in the education system. And that's probably just because where I come from. So that's really, that's a real business sort of philosophy, is let's incent them and make sure that they keep performing. So what systems do you have in place to ensure certain education standards are met?
We always have our own supervisory board, so that supervisory board comes in as a surprise visit to the school. At the same time, they give them different forms. Of course, the government has its own quality control, but we have, as owner, I have my own supervisory board, which is composed of different professions, so they do come and do a number of things.
Is there any special things that you do in regards to keep your students engaged in the learning process?
Yes, of course. In our school, it's not. We have to use the regular teaching system. Like for example, we have to use, if it's science, then we have to use the science textbook that the government has already issued. But what we try to do is we work on the sequence. Like for example, if the lesson in science is about the water, like river and things like that, and if it's about water pollution, then we make our students learn about that in Amharic, and then we ask them to write poems in Amharic. We ask them to write poems in English about that, write an essay about that, and we also take them out to visit that polluted water, and then they communicate back to the community saying that we live in this community and we learn in this community, but we've seen this polluted water, and the polluted water has this and this disadvantage, so how can we do to change the pollution, how can we do to minimize the pollution? They can discuss with the government officials, that way they can make decisions. So we choose themes every month from different subjects, so we work on those themes together, within all subjects. So this makes them highly involved within the community. And also, you don't expect a kind of, 8 or 9 years old kid to come to you and say that this water is polluted, I'm very concerned about this, and blah, blah, You would feel really, you got ashamed and nervous about it. So people try to react on this. Like for example, there was a road which was very narrow, and then on the side of the road, people were selling products. And then, my students were learning about traffic movement, so they went there and they said, okay, where is the pedestrian road? And we said there's no pedestrian road because it's all occupied by illegal business persons. So they went to the government and said, no, I'm a child, and as I go out from my school to my home, this road is completely crowded. I'm told by my teachers to use the pedestrian road, but the pedestrian road is already occupied. So the government officials were really concerned, and they said no businesses here. So they were trying to give another alternative places for the business persons and release those kind of things.
So it sounds like in the education system, what you're doing is you're saying, okay, we're going to read about it, we're going to write about it, and then we're going to experience it, and then we're going to do something about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
What a brilliant philosophy. So making kids very involved in the community. Yes. And I guess some kids would be very passionate about it, and some may not.
Very much. Most of them are very passionate about it because, talking to a Kabbalah official, going there, it's something they could never aspire to do. But this is an assignment from your teacher, so you have to go and do it. And then they say, okay, I've met our Kabbalah official. And, it's very important. It's good to make kids think about their future. It's good to make them think about their community, their future, their surrounding. Many times kids learn about things in America, kids learn about things in Canada, and they will never love to live here. As soon as they finish grade 12, then they say, how can I go to America, how can I go to Canada? But once we teach them about their community and they are directly involved in building their own community, then they feel a sense of belongingness to the community, and they would always love to remain within that community. So.
Excellent, excellent. Creating the future leaders of tomorrow, without a doubt. Excellent. Now, what has been the most significant impact you feel you've made in your career so far?
I think changing people's thinking. People have their own thinking, and it's not easy to change thinking, and change is always something new, you know. So people are not comfortable about changing things. But now I think the more they're used to my, they trust you. So building trust and is also a very significant tool to change people's mind. Once people trust you, then it's easy for them to change things in accordance with your thinking.
Mm-hmm. So particularly when you're referring to change within their thinking, what are you specifically referring to?
A number of things, like change of thinking about disability, change of thinking about a young person taking responsibility, change of thinking about a woman being able to pioneer new things. You know, in this country, women are always told to be someone who will follow that other men have already done. Otherwise, we're not taken as pioneers. I mean, we're not recognized as pioneers, even though we are. So I think those kind of things have changed.
Now, what do you attribute your success to? If there was one thing, be it as part of your character or something that's happened to you, what would that one thing be that is attributed all the success you've had so far?
I think it's all my disability, as people call it, because always other people do tell me that I can't do things because I'm disabled. So that's my secret success, because I know that people will think that I won't do it because I'm disabled. So I try to do things, and I want to prove that I'll do it because I'm disabled.
So, so really being called disabled is your catalyst for everything. Yeah. Okay. Today, what would be the most rewarding aspect of your career?
A number of people changed economically, ideologically. For example, the kids who are in my school were not the same, had not the same thinking and had not the same expressions. They are my rewards. At the same time, with an ECDD, I'm working on changing people's mind on how to include persons with disabilities. So that change is a very good reward for me. I feel really honored when I see disabled persons being included in economic programs, in agricultural programs, in educational programs, wherever. So that's all my reward now.
So what would you say would be the most challenging aspect of your career?
I think working on men. I mean, all the thing I'm doing is related to human beings. It's not related to machines or things like that. So trying to change people's mind is very difficult, because always people are comfortable with something which they're familiar with. So whether it's something better, they don't want to change it, because they think that, living, there is even one saying in Amharic that we use, it's better to have a devil, which you're familiar with, instead of having an angel, which you're not familiar with. Mm-hmm. So that is, having that kind of saying, people are comfortable with what they think is their knowledge, what they think is their experience. So it's very difficult to change what they have in mind. So
yeah, absolutely. Without change, we don't evolve. So now, what would be the most significant decision you've made in your career?
I think to study law, because I studied law as my first degree. Mm-hmm. So what I wanted first to know is what rights what privilege I am entitled in life for, and what obligations do I have in life for. So I mostly focus on what are my obligations. Many people think that what has been done for me, and what are my rights, what is something which I didn't think that I did deserve. But I always think, what's my obligation? What didn't I fulfill out of my duty? Mm-hmm. That makes me always awake. Many people think that, what did my country do to me? What did my community do to me? What did my boss do to me? Things like that. Right? My always questioning is that, what did I do towards others? Mm-hmm. How did I do my duty? How did I do my obligation?
Excellent. Has there been any initiative that you have implemented that you felt didn't work or achieve the objective? And if you could tell us about that, and then how you dealt with that.
Well, a number of them. Because success is part of the failure, and I have started a number of good initiatives within the university as well as within the disability movement that didn't work. Still, I want the disability movement within Ethiopia to be so close, but it didn't work so much because it did have its own remnants from the previous. You know, there are generational issues. There are, you know, everybody wants to remain a boss. I'm working towards having young, new blood to the disability movement. It's not still happening. And the reason is that there is a deep-rooted old age mentality of that young persons are not responsible to take, you know, big decision makings and things like that. So many people who are good leaders do not think that someone is able to do things better than they can do. So they're afraid they won't leave their places. It's not only within the disability movement, but within the whole leadership system I have, both in my country as well as in the disability movement. I don't think I have succeeded that much further within having new blood to leadership. Because people who are already in place, in power, do not have the confidence for others to lead it. I know it's because of a goodwill that they think that they are the best to do. But they should know that they should have others to do it. And I think one of the characteristics of a good leader is having followers who can sustain things while he or she is not there in place.
Yeah, very, very well said. What do you think needs to happen in order for those leaders to be developed?
Well, I think still it's a matter of confidence, and there needs to be some legal instruments, like for example, which will urge leaders not to lead with beyond a certain time limit. But the problem is, those leaders are the ones who can rewrite the constitutions and elongate their own lifetime.
Well, there's political leaders, and then there's leaders just in businesses. It sounds like what you were talking about is leaders in businesses and leaders in movements also need to step aside to let younger people come in. What kind of things could they do to encourage young people to get involved, do you think?
I think schools should be active in this. I mean, for example, the practical method that we're using is that getting involved kids from the very beginning. Then, I mean, how do you think that a kid who was in charge of, cleaning a polluted river within the community can also lead a shop within a business, and then they can easily live. And I think families should also be proud enough to have an early retirement and deliver it to their kids on time.
Now, when you look at your life, do you think you're conducting your purpose?
Of course I am.
So let's talk about that. So what kind of gifts do you think that you have, those 99 abilities that you have that have really made you the woman that you are, and the trailblazer, quite frankly, that you are? Don't be modest.
I think it's mostly just trial. And I do try everything. And I do try to take every opportunity, even opportunities which are not meant to me. Because as I mentioned, always I think about, did I fulfill my obligation? So beyond things, I mean, I'm not happy. Some people are happy with something that they have achieved and they are okay with that. But for me, I think achievement is building on something. So my yesterday's achievement is only a story. Unless and otherwise it continues for today and tomorrow, then it will never be an achievement. It will remain being a story.
Okay, so your potential is still remain to be seen.
Exactly.
Okay. So this is what I call our edginess segment. And what this refers to is something that you have to do that makes you uncomfortable. But you need to do it in order to continue to achieve your objective and your success that you achieved.
I don't want to be labeled. Like, for example, people label me as a person with disability. And they forget about my ability and they focus on my disability. That's one thing. And people think that I'm special. But I'm not special. This is something which others can do. For example, if I succeed on something, people will think that, no, she succeeded because she's special. And they will never try, thinking that it's because I'm special that I've succeeded in that thing. So people think that I'm special, but I think that I'm part of the ordinary system. So I advise others to continue within that, because it's mostly a reason, an excuse for many people not to do the same as I do, because they think that I'm special, and I'm doing that because I'm special.
Okay. And part of that, what we were talking about a little earlier too, before the interview, is you let people call you that as much as you don't like being called that, special or disabled.
Exactly.
Okay. Excellent. Now, while achieving your objective, how often do you feel uncomfortable?
Oh, every day.
Yeah.
Guys, I mean, within every minute, within every second, as long as you have some movement in life, there are good as well as bad things. So I feel uncomfortable. I think maybe half of my time I feel uncomfortable.
Can you give us a specific situation where you felt uncomfortable and how you handle that situation?
Well, sometimes when people come to talk to me as a director and they see that I'm a young person as well as a woman as well as disabled, then they feel like shortening their sessions. So what I would let them do is just create another analysis. So I give them more time to learn about what I did and how I came there. Because mostly it matters who you are. When you're mentioned to be a director, some people need to have you a very giant body with a very kind of, old age, and then they need a number of certificates and things like that to prove who you are. So how I accept them, how I welcome them, change things mostly.
Now, I'm just going to get some clarification on that. You said how I welcome them. And is that the energy which you use, or is it also what you tell them about yourself so you gain credibility?
I don't tell them about myself.
Okay.
I just let them learn about myself through the process.
Okay. Which I think is really important advice.
Yeah.
Because often through the process of someone's learning about who you are, it's not like you know who you are, you know what you've achieved. You don't have to prove anything to anybody, but let them discover who you are and you gain credibility.
Exactly, and if you start telling about yourself, that's what people think would think about you, is that all she knows is about herself, so she doesn't know anything about other things. So they learn about me from other things which they are interested in, which I'm explaining.
So you may have answered this question, but I am going to ask you it again. And if you can isolate what your one biggest obstacle is to get to this point.
I think still it's attitude. The attitude of others about you. Others, men's family, community, your friends, their surroundings, and the world. People have different attitudes about me, and there's something which they have already determined for me to be. So I'm against that.
So how you deal with that is?
Just doing things. I do things and I prove that it should not, their thinking is not the right thinking.
Rather than trying to convince them, they'll see.
Not really,
yeah.
Not really. That's waste of time and waste of words.
Yeah, absolutely. What does success mean to you?
Success is getting yourself, being introduced to yourself very well, being linked to yourself very well. I listen to myself, I discuss with myself, I always examine myself, I test myself. So for me, for someone, success is getting yourself properly. Understanding yourself.
And how would you define leadership?
Leadership for me is creating a system at which a number of others can flow and come in. So it's working on the system which others can pass through, which others can sustain.
As a leader, what do you find are the three most powerful pieces of advice you can give to someone trying to lead a project, a team, or initiative?
Well, the first thing is don't tell other people how to do things, but do and let them learn from that. The second thing is, being a leader, you have to be a risk taker. So make sure that you are taking the enough risk. The maximum risk that others can learn from you. The third thing is that make sure that you have other successors who will maintain the change that you have already acquired within the process, the leadership process.
Excellent leadership lessons. Thank you. And very succinct too. Now, is there one thing you would do differently in pursuit of your success? And if there was, what would it be?
I would have liked if I had done the success of mine in a broader map than I'm doing. Like, for example, I'm doing it with children, I'm doing it with the disability movement. It's all kind of, closed kind of target group. Had I done it with the world, I think had I done it in a very broad, like, for example, had I been a very famous media person internationally or something which I could address a better number of population than I did, then it would have been a success. Otherwise, it would take me, it's gonna take me time till I get all the world.
Well, you're 29, you have a little bit of time.
29 is too much.
So what is next for you?
Next for me is, I think duplicating my successes to other areas, like for example, and growing, building on already acquired successes. And for example, I have started a school here. Then I would like other private school owners also to start the same, taking this advocacy. And well, building on already existing efforts, I have already worked.
Wonderful. So given the chance, what would you love to do that you haven't done yet? And this, the world's your oyster here. It doesn't have to be with your career, it could be anything.
It's too much that I haven't done, so I would love to do a number of things. But very recently I want to be a mother, very proud mother, because I've been mentioned with the other processes of life. But I was just married 9 months ago, so I would love
Congratulations.
I would love to be a very nice mother, so that's one. And I want to promote myself into being an international leader. Most of my efforts were highly discernment within Ethiopia and sometimes in Africa. Now I want to see myself, I want to spread my words to all the world, and I want to show the world, the international people, the same thing I've seen with my community.
If you had a daughter 10 years old today, what words of wisdom would you give to her?
Loud, proud, and passionate. I want my kid to be loud as possible, so that people can hear what she thinks, what she speaks. And I want her to be proud of her, just expressing herself as someone who is very capable, efficient, and unique, someone who has a number of things to contribute to this world, passionate, always moving forward.
What do you wish someone told you when you were that age?
I would have been a completely different person. I think I would have been maybe 5 or 6 times much achiever than I am today.
So if you heard those words, or are those the words you wish you had heard when you were 10?
Of course.
Yeah, okay. If you were to look back on anything, is there anything that you would have changed?
I think I would have changed my learning setting. I have already attended my first primary schools in a special school, only for the blind. So I would have loved had I learned in a mainstream school. I would have the opportunity, and had I stayed with my family, with my community, then I would have had the chance to grab more from my community. I mean, special school setting is more of artificial. All you get is something that they think that you deserve it. So had I got the chance to change things going back, then I would have loved to be educated in a mainstream school.
You didn't say I would have changed being blind.
I think
that's actually extremely important that you didn't
actually
say.
That's the poisonous point I would say. I mean, I would never say this, because I've told you the secret of my success is being blind. Had I not been blind, and my grandparents would never let me come to the urban areas. So had I not come to the urban areas, I wouldn't have been educated, and I wouldn't have been the person today. So blindness is something which I had already, I would never say that I would change it, because that blindness already is the secret for my success, as I told you. The challenge is my opportunity.
But I think that the challenge is your opportunity, which I really think is a very important message that needs emphasizing. So that is wonderful. You know, your words of wisdom to African women in general.
I think I would repeat what I said for my 10 years old daughter, because I feel that African women are my sisters, mothers, and some of them my daughters. So I think for African women, what we lack to do is we have to be loud, proud, and passionate. We have already very impressive things that we have done, and we are quite indispensable in human life in Africa. A number of successes within African history are achieved because of our presence. So I think we have to be loud. Because we're not loud, others who are loud have already taken our credit. Because we're not proud, others who are proud have already taken our credit. Because we're not passionate, others who are already passionate have already taken our passions out of our hearts. So I think we need to be loud, proud, passionate.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today. And my name is Suzanne F. Stevens, and I co-produce Wisdom Exchange TV with my husband, Michael K. Ginrich. We're traveling all over Africa and just arrived in Ethiopia a couple days ago. And this is our first interview in Ethiopia, so thank you very much for being our first. We are traveling, as I said, all over Africa, interviewing women like the woman we just interviewed today. And if you're not blown away right now, I have shivers from her messages, because they're powerful and they're real and they're authentically her. And that's what's really important. And we're looking for women to interview. So if you know women like this, that we can interview, leaders in politics, philanthropy, education, or business, please email us at info@wisdomexchangetv.com, and we'll look into them and see if they fit the criteria of leadership of women leaders all over Africa. Also, please subscribe to Wisdom Exchange TV. Right now we have a special offer on that if you subscribe, you'll also receive a white paper that I've done on presenting persuasively to influence anybody, from the boardroom, for fundraising. These will give you techniques that I've trained in 5 continents on how to influence people. So you'll get that free. And do tell your friends as well. Lastly, if you know or work for an organization that would like to sponsor Africa Business Women Connected Summit that is drawing top business leaders all over Africa, please also send us an email at info@wisdomexchange.tv. I'd appreciate that. And I want to leave with my final words of wisdom, and I think they will complement what we've heard today. We all have some sort of disability, but it's what we do with our abilities that makes us live a fulfilled and impactful life, and we saw a lot of abilities today. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Suzanne S. Stevens.